There are really good reasons socially to learn more about the game, to get good at it, to really care about how you can make raids perform better. I want to clarify that this is different than caring about a particular raid group's performance or about your performance in a particular instance of a raid. I'm not talking about parsing and why you should think you're a better person if you get a 99. Let me really quickly kind of straw man the notion of parsing. Here's the big funny thing. Most people who play WoW aren't taking it as a competitive activity. Unlike if you're playing Counter-Strike or League of Legends or Dota or most of the shooting games in the world. They're playing it as kind of an escape/social experience. And so when you get a 99 parse, you aren't truly getting a top 1% performance in whatever's being measured. You're not, okay? And it's the same thing with your raid team. If your raid team has a top 1% speed run, you're not really a top 1% guild. You have to be top fraction of a percent. All right. Now, that's enough shit talk about caring about your performance. I just want to get that out there because this is a rather true critique people have about sweating in the game. But here's some reasons why it is important to sweat about the game. I can illustrate this with a bit of a story. I used to want to be a really casual player. It was the summer of 2019. I had about 8 months until my offer was going to start at Microsoft. And I was like, I got some time to burn. And I had a friend who I'd never played WoW with before. But he told me about this TBC private server he's playing on. And I was like, huh, okay. I don't know if I really want to get into WoW again. He's like, nah, Fresh. Fresh is going to come out soon. Okay? Like, come on, we do this TBC thing for a bit. You know, you get back into World of Warcraft, do some raiding. Maybe we play Fresh. Huh, I got a lot of free time. It's interesting. So go plan this TBC server. He tells me, I ask him like, hey, so are rogues good? I remember playing and I was like 12 years old and rogues sometimes topped DPS. People like rogues, they good? He's like, yeah, I mean, people like rogue. It's pretty good. Play a rogue, get to, get 70, get pre-bis. Don't have really enchants. It's very hard to afford that kind of crap on a private server. They actually enforce the RMT shit, so everyone's broke. But yeah, I can't get into a raid group. I'm playing a rogue. My friend bought a bunch of gold, so before I was ever set up enough to play with him, he gets permabanned on the server. So I'm just all alone on this private server. Get my wife into it also. We're playing together. But I can't get into a raid group to save my fucking life. I'm literally hitting up raid leaders and GMs all over the place telling them, I will pay you to take me to one raid. I'll roll on no gear. And if you like my performance, then I'd love to be on your bench. I'd really like to be in raid as much as possible, but it's okay. I will ride the bench. And literally no one was interested in this offer at all. No bites. And this is what got me to make a guild. I just wanted to be able to raid and not be in a pug. I wasn't really thinking I was going to get to know a bunch of people, but if I was going to make a guild, then I knew that that's just part and parcel of it. So even though I'd never managed people before, I hadn't ran a raid group in, I don't know, since I was 15 years old. But then I had to get doing it, and so I set up a car group and went from there. It's hard. Don't really know what I'm doing. People I'm playing with don't know what they're doing, but we're slowly progressing through the content. There's this notion of getting better over time that's created by the game being a little difficult, or at least I should say feeling difficult to us and us not being able to complete everything. So, we're still in this mindset of growing, and then we have 2 car groups, and some people have 2 characters like I do. And then we have a third group, and now I'm thinking, hey, we got enough people. Let's do some 25-man. So we start doing Gruul's Lair, and we're idiots, so it takes a while to kill a Gruul. And then we get into Tier 5. I think we skipped Mag. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we skipped Mag. So we get into Tier 5, and, the Lurker smokes us at the start, and then we kill Lurker the second week, and then we're getting, like, one new boss every week for a little while. And then maybe the guilds existed for 8 weeks, and we're almost done with Tier 5. We're progressing really pretty fast. We're not really any good, but we're a pretty tight-knit group, and we're getting along really good. It's a couple months until Fresh comes out. That's not really an existential threat to our social group at this point, at least. And then eventually it gets harder to get better. So we have this casual mindset, and we're having a lot of fun together, and we all feel like we're growing, even though some people aren't really getting any better. Some people are getting a lot better. There's this illusion of growth that everybody has since we're progressing. Until we stop progressing fast enough, people start comparing our guild to the other guilds, which are actually pretty serious and have competitive rosters. We're doing pretty good, but we're casual. Not that semi-hardcore shit people say. We are actually fucking casual, but we're doing pretty good. And then people stopped being as slowly, I'd say they started being a little less happy. At first, I couldn't really tell. Like, one of the first things I remember that popped up was people saying maybe we should have a competitive roster. And I'm against it. I think it's mostly because I just hate sitting people. I hate ranking my friends. But then we do it, and there are these 3 guys. They're all warrior DPS. Guy who wanted to be 2-hand fury, does 0 damage, just swears that it's good. Always at the bottom of the meters. Another guy, arms. He made his own spec. It's shit. He doesn't know DPS either. And then this third guy who was dual wield fury, and he didn't play DPS very good, but he's actually really geared tank, and he did the tank stuff pretty damn well. He'd fuck everything up once, but just once or twice, and then he did it right. And I needed to sit 2 of these guys, and I picked the 2 DPS warriors. And I remember some people got upset about it. We're doing this about raid performance, right? So we're having these talks then about our friends and how good or bad they are and who should or shouldn't be in the raid. And then there's other things start coming up and wanting to start micromanaging everybody. There's this desire to make sure that we could keep the upward trajectory going at a similar rate, even though we'd all been very casual players. And eventually I just kind of get sick of it, close the guild down. We lose some people along the way, so it's not like we had a completely functional raid team when I called it. I think we had 22 people show up to a raid. Guys, I'm fucking over this. And then 2019 comes along, and I'm thinking, okay, so I'm going to play the game better this time. I'm going to be a tank, because that's a single point of failure in a guild. At least that was my perception of it. Nowadays, I don't really think that, but at the time, I thought, main tank, single point of failure, I'll do that. I'll get really good at it. We can still be casual as a unit, but myself, individual, I need to have like high standards. That'll make the group run better. Maybe I can dodge those problems in the past of it being hard to progress the group. Maybe I can take on more responsibility, and then that'll fix things. Trying to make a guild, and it's hard. It's really, really, really hard to start a guild from zero. Most of the guys from my private server guild just got sick of leveling at some point. 2 or 3 people made it. That was it. Only like 2 or 3 of us, plus me and my wife. So it's like we got 5 guys, make it to 60. I maybe run to another 5 in the course of running MC pugs for months. Eventually, I run into this dude in an Ani pug. He's leading. I'm sick of running pugs and dealing with fucking strangers who fuck things up and act like ungrateful fucking bastards all the time. So I'm just in a bad mood. I'm not going to make my own pug for once. Like, for once this fresh, I'm not, and it's 2019, I'm not going to make my own pug. I'm going to go to somebody else's. I go to this Ani pug, and it's hell on earth, and everyone's fucking up, and the raid leader's staying calm and not losing his shit, and we're both tanking, and we're trying to get this figured out, and we kill the boss, and I hit him up after raid. Are you trying to set up a fucking guild? Yes. Okay. I want to be a tank in your guild. I'd love to be the main tank. You're a druid, so maybe that would work, and I'd love to get a Thunder Fury. And I want to be involved in leadership, but it's okay if you don't trust me. I'm willing to wait my turn and earn it, and if it never happens, that's okay. You just got to treat my guys good. And he said, sure, and we talked all night about it. Turns out he's going to be flying out to Seattle a week from today. I lived in Seattle at times. So, like, we meet up in person. We go to a bar with our girlfriends, get to know each other, and then we merge these guilds, and we have a functional raid team, which is fucking crazy. We're off the this treadmill, but we're casual. We're going to use people's time really efficiently. We're only going to ask people to do things that make it so we all spend less time in the game. It's like, okay, cool. This is something I can get behind. This sounds like a clear vision. Let's do it. And we get into it, and the raids are going pretty good. And eventually somebody tells us about this fucking website called Warcraft Blogs. And it's probably actually 3 or 4 months into the 2019 fresh when I learned about Warcraft Blogs, which maybe that sounds really crazy to you. Like, before that, the way I would record shit, dude, take a little picture of recount here and store it in a folder on my desktop. That's how I used to do this performance monitoring bullshit. And I knew that recount wasn't perfectly accurate, but I was like, this is the best I got, guys. We're checking like the amount of casts people had. And we slowly learn how to use tools in the game. We're getting more serious, and people start liking the guild more and more as we're getting better. And we're like, man, what if we try to be a serious guild? And we're like, yeah, let's be a serious guild. And this guy's a little, I thought he was a little full of himself, but I loved it. I really loved it. He's like, yeah, we're going to be one of the best guilds in the world. That's like what he told me. Like, we're fucking doing like an hour, 25-minute MC. Neither of us is fucking raid led really before, or fucking ran a guild and WoW. We've never been in a good guild before, but like, yeah, we're going to be one of the fucking best guilds in the world, dude. Let's do it. And we just start learning a lot about the game and telling people about this Warcraft log shit in our guild. I don't think any of them knew about it. Maybe a couple of them did, and they just didn't want to tell us. We're getting more and more and more and more serious, and people are getting more and more tight with each other too. It was crazy. I started seeing guildies in person. Like over the course of 2 years, I saw probably like 10 guildies in person. It was so fucking nuts. We got so tied up with each other, and the high point was in BWL. We get a 24-minute BWL pretty early on. It's like top 50 in the world. Might have been top 30. And we're like, wow, we're an officially good group. Like, we're fucking good at the game. We figured this shit out. It felt super, super good. And people were like proud to have the guild tag. And both of us, me and the other guy, both thought it was really, really cool. And then things got bad. The AQ bug mount shit happened, and there was some drama in the guild caused largely by the guy I was running it with. And to make a long story short, there was some alcohol abuse problems, and he wasn't sleeping very good, and he wasn't behaving very well. But this guy had done a lot for everybody. I don't want to shit talk him or make it sound like he deserved this, but like, he was doing really bad for a couple weeks. I didn't know how to support him through it the right way. I was really stressed out, and we basically just kicked him out of the guild. And it was an awful thing all around. Like, it was terrible. I'm not proud of how any of it happened. But then we got less serious. When he was out, then it was like, hey guys, we're gonna be a little less serious. And the guild became slowly, very slowly, really toxic, which was funny. We went from being really hardcore to semi-hardcore, the cope version of semi-hardcore. You know, we're getting our world buffs, we're getting our consumes, but we're fucking up stupid stuff. We're showing up late to raid. People are saying dumb shit in comms. Like, I'm okay with bullshitting in comms, but like, for example, if you're not the raid leader, never call a fucking wipe. Shut your goddamn mouth, you fucking idiot. Just stupid stuff. And people start liking each other less. You know, like, I'd say all of us had this idea that, you know, we're already really tight. We've already done the hardcore rating thing. We can chill out a bit in this AQ stuff and eventually in Nax, and it's going to be fine. And it just gets worse and worse and worse. I stop raiding with my own fucking guild in TBC. And then I make another one in Wrath. And I'm like, all right, we're going to be fucking super autistic, guys. Super fucking goddamn autistic. And it was a real positive community again. And then I quit Wrath eventually. I didn't like Old War. And I play on Era. And I'm like, I'm going to be casual this time. And I play with these people who'd never played before. They missed the boat in 2019. This like Era like 2 years ago or something. And then I'm fucking too autistic to be casual. I'm playing with these guys who, like, it was like their first ZG. They're like, yeah. Like, I remember I met them. Like, we just had our first ZG. We have this really experienced raid leader. We did a 3-hour ZG. It was awesome. We killed all the bosses, and I was like, that's really cool. 3 hours, huh? I didn't want to be a dick. But, you know, I'm thinking, what the fuck? 3 hours ZG? Bro, you got somebody in Nax gear? Are you okay? And just over time, I like just teach these guys about how to look at the logs and what world buffs are and how much more damage it can get you to do, and they just end up doing it. And we get, literally in like 2 months, we go from a bunch of people who fucking thought a 3-hour ZG was cool to we got you check the fresh logs. We had a guild check the logs for a bit, and we got like quite a few like top 5 all-time boss kills and MC and BWL with a bunch of people who had no idea how to play the game just because like they got along and did their raid prep. And that was a really positive community for a bit. And just it's hard. I'd say it's really hard for people to stay focused on something and committed to a group if they don't see increasing returns for their time forever, basically. Or at least a similar amount of dopamine as before, but like basically never less. It's got to always be increasing. It's difficult for people to keep their attention on things that aren't like that. Maybe this is why there's the meme of men liking BPD girls. Or I don't know. I think a lot of people find that crazy people are interesting. Might be some relation between these two cases, but I don't think you can be casual about the game long term and find enough raid success to keep your group from wanting to go on a break. There's a lot of guilds that they're really casual in MC and BWL in 2019, and then AQ is rough, and they probably, if AQ is rough, they just called it. They probably weren't like, we're going to take a break till TBC, or we're going to take a break till Nax. Nax will totally be easier. But there were a lot of guilds that they got really fucked up in Nax 40. And then they thought, we're going to take a break. We'll come back in TBC. And it just killed the social group. It just annihilated it. And you don't have to be huge into parsing to make a group get better. I don't give a tenth of a fuck about my parses. You can go check my name on the log sites. They're nothing special. They're way less good than the people I've played with always, basically. I'm not focused on that. I'm focused on the group because I think that is really, really important for being able to actually have all the things that casual players want. Like, what do casual players want? They want to be able to connect with a group and easily get into raids. And maybe some other things that they would want would be to have a strong sense of community, play with the same people, be able to avoid toxic situations that pugs may expose you to. Although some people don't get stressed out by toxic stuff in pugs because it doesn't really reflect on you as an individual in a pug when something stupid happens in a pug. But some people, it really stresses them out. So, it just depends on what type of a person you are. But these are things that are offered to you by being in guilds that are pretty damn serious. Not the most serious in the world. If you want to play in the best guilds in the world, it's got to be ran like a fucking competitive sports team. And if you stop performing, you're out. Like, oh, your damage is worse than the next best guy. The lowest DPS person's on the chopping block all the time. Or like, you're a healer, you fuck your assignment up. Bye-bye. Like, but you don't need to be in a guild that's that cutting edge to be firmly fucking sweaty. And you don't need to like upgrade guilds either. You can fix the guild that you're playing with, even if they're not very good, by understanding what people are really after. For example, if you're in a guild that is, if you're in any guild in the world, the biggest reason people make guilds is because they're absolutely fucking full of themselves. All right. They're absolutely delusionally full of themselves. That is the number one reason people make guilds. It's true for me. I think it's true for everybody I've ever met that runs a fucking guild. Because why are you going to put all this fucking work into doing something when really all it does is it lets you have more control over the loot if you really care about that. But it's way easier to join someone's guild and be a fucking brown noser to get loot than it is to make a guild. It's way easier. It's also easier to join a guild and become the raid leader than it is to make a fucking guild. But really, it's some ego thing, all right? So it's like you wanna make your current group better. That's something you should focus on. Like, what the hell does the leadership care about? Like, a lot of people, when they organize literally anything, they're really attached to their ideas. They're super attached to their ideas. And so if you give them an idea on how to do something, they'll be really not interested in it. All right? And this is true with me too. I'm not saying I'm above this. But like if somebody comes to me, for example, like this is a thing people have came to me with a couple times. They're like, we should get the fire resist buff before we do molten core. And some of me would want to say no because it's not like something that was like top of mind for me. and then maybe more, and then maybe they start having more logical thoughts followed by that. So it's like first instinct is like, no, not my idea. Second, then you start generating ideas, and you'd be like, oh, well, this takes time to set up before raid, and people already have a hard time showing up 15 minutes before raid, so how am I going to get them show up like 30 minutes before raid? And then we need to break up into groups, and I'm worried that if we're in separate groups, what if somebody gets themselves fucking heart, like blah, 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 blah. And, you start generating all the problems with the idea. Whereas, like, let's say you wanted to convince somebody like me to do this, and instead you're like, all right, so I went and talked to these 4 priests, and I saw, hey, like, could you get on, like, 35, 40 minutes before raid? I have this, like, thing I want to, like, do with getting a fire resist buff. I just want to know, like, are you free? So, you're in it, like, if you're in my guild, you want to talk to a couple of the priests and see, like, if they're free. So maybe, like, 3 or 4 of the priests say yes, and then you get to the warlocks, and you explain to them, and you get them bought in, like, hey, like, so could you be here? Because then we could summon some people, and you somehow find a way to get them bought into that. And now it's like, okay, so like you could then go to somebody and be like, all right, so I have these guys want to do the MCs, and then these 2 locks want to do the summons. So I'm thinking, just for anybody that's interested in it, like if you could post in Discord, then I think you could probably organize those people because they're already interested in it, and then you could get us the buffs. That's like way more appealing. And that's you could do that kind of crap in any guild at all, and people will latch on to it. They will totally fucking love it. And I've done this every time I've been in a guild, and it hasn't been my guild that I made. I've done this, and people they are totally down with that, because why wouldn't they be? Why wouldn't they be? It's like you let them, you set it up, and you let them take you over the finish line. Like people love that fucking feeling. And then you could make your guild that is casual now, maybe they're like casual plus. The amount of output they get per unit effort on average for the raid group, it goes up. And so now you're more likely to have a good time in BWL, and you're more likely to full clear AQ early on enough that people don't get stressed out. And maybe even if you're really not into the game and people aren't getting all their world buffs, you can tweak a few things. Like you can get a couple people interested in parsing or whatever they personally care about, and then by the time Nax comes around, like you have 10 warriors in your group that get buffs, like 3 of them are tanks, and you have half the healers using mana pots on CD, and so now you smoke Patchwork your first night, even though most people in the guild don't consume or world buff at all. And that would make a very material impact on the likelihood that your social group survives into the future. So I think getting good at the things you do, if you care about the people you play with, it's just absolutely essential. It's so hard to change things around you when you don't have the time and the skills and the knowledge to, like knowledge you can share with the other people. Some things it's skills. Like if you're a tank and you're really fucking good, you can maybe be worth like 2 people in a raid or 3 people in a raid if you're like really good and the other people aren't like very serious, and if you have a lot of knowledge, you can come up with how to feed that to people so that way they like it and they're engaged the whole way through, and then they get their own skills, and then if you want to put a lot of time in, then that lets you do everything better. It's just a shame when I hear people talk about, and I talk about this kind of stuff too, people talk about how much they loved a guild or a friend group that they had in the past, and it doesn't exist anymore. And it's always because of shit like this. It's always because of shit like this. Like some group of people could have put in more, and it could have lived. And it's so easy to just let it slip through your fingers. But if you just take the things you do really, really, really fucking seriously, you have so much more control over what happens in your life. And this is a stupid fucking video game, but if you're going to put like a fucking 500 hours a year or more into this game, why not take this kind of shit serious? It's like, okay, put an extra 10% effort in, and then you get to play with the same people for years to come. The first guild I ever raided with when I was like 12 years old and in middle school, I eventually lost sight of what mattered, and I joined the best guild on my server for one raid, and I left this amazing group that I was in. And then I quit WoW after it, and those guys kept raiding till BFA. They raided from TBC till BFA, and it took a lot of fucking effort, I bet. And I got to miss out on like 15 fucking years of that because I didn't have my focus on the right things. And I played a ton of video games over those years, but I played them with a ton of people, different people I know for a couple years at a time. What a fucking waste. I'm not messing that up again. If you're looking for a guild that takes each other seriously, hit me up in Discord. It's Jake from Tree.